Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the political deep dive this evening. A couple of announcements one announcement and a little bit of a monologue before we get started tonight. Tonight is my final episode on the People for Liberty. And I will say a hearty thank you, and I always love the things that for Liberty do have done for this podcast or live stream, and what they continue to do for the Liberty movement. Fantastic organization, and I will always support their efforts because they do fantastic work. Uh, Dan Fishman, Lauren Postler, folks like Casey Daly, people that are involved in that organization, I cannot speak highly enough about because they are fantastic people. They're fantastic advocates for liberty. My big announcement for what's going to happen next week and beyond is this. Yes, we are moving to LPTV, and the reason why we can't do People for Liberty is that you can't really cross pollinate between action committees and political parties. So since this is the official TV arm of the LP, I can't do work on for People for Liberty with the show. So, but again, fantastic organization. I cannot say enough great things about it. We're undergoing some renovations here, which is why you see mostly blank wall behind me. But getting ready for the new look of the show. You already noticed that some of the graphics have changed to the kind of the official LP colors and everything like that. But anyway, it's also Memorial Day weekend, and I know a lot of people get confused about what Memorial Day is, and they talk about. Oh, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. They talk about thanking veterans for their service, which is great. I don't think there's ever a bad time. Unless the veteran. Some veterans are not really particularly excited about being thanked for their service. But if I don't have an issue with people thanking veterans for their service. But this weekend is about the people who didn't come home, the ones who sacrificed their lives in service to the country. And we can always have the discussion about whether their service was, American imperialism or just to service the military-industrial complex. We can always have that conversation. But this week is about this holiday is about those people who didn't make it, and it's not just the people that didn't make it or who died on the battlefield. We also talk about the veterans who died due to things that our government did while we were in combat. So Agent Orange veterans who came home but were ended up with things like diabetes and lung cancer and skin cancer and all kinds of nasty stuff that comes with the use of Agent Orange. We're talking about veterans who served in the Gulf War who had lung conditions from burn pits. Those issues lingered long beyond the war. Even talking about those veterans who, the off-sided stat of 22 a day that commit suicide because of undiagnosed or badly treated PTSD from the stuff that happened while they're in combat. So, this is a day to honor all those people who gave their lives, whether at home or abroad due to American failures in foreign policy and service to their country. So, but we're going to talk about veteran issues tonight. My guest is Rob Rahr, veteran advocate, works for Helping Heroes in Wheeling, West Virginia, a veteran homelessness organization in Wheeling, serving the northern panhandle of West Virginia. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead and introduce people to what you're a veteran yourself. So tell us about your experience within the military and what you do.
All right. Well, I am a 20-year vet. I took the full ride. I joined back in 93 to become a military police officer. Mm-hmm. I worked through a variety of jobs. That was a great thing about being an MP. They call it military police, but we're really multi-purpose. I had a variety of jobs working with either law enforcement, customs, field work, And the best part, I got to work with dogs. I was a dog trainer. So best job ever. And I served a couple tours in Afghanistan. I've served in Korea. I've served basically all over the world. So little guy from Fallsview, West Virginia, got to see the whole world. It was great.
Excellent. That's the crazy thing. One of the state with the highest number of, that basically gives the greatest proportion of its population to the military has traditionally been West Virginia. A lot of veterans come from West Virginia, and then they also resettle back in West Virginia once their service is done. And
I think it's because it's so great here that we just got to get away for a while so we can, appreciate what we missed.
Yeah, you can miss it and then come back. Yeah, exactly. In fact, the little known fact is that the last World War II veteran, World War I veteran that passed away, Frank Buckles, was lived in West Virginia his last few years. Um, Died at like 108, I believe. Just died, I want to say about 10 years ago. But awesome. Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. And thank you also for bringing up the cause of Memorial Day. I know I'm not one of those vets who'll sit there and jump at you going, well, no, that's not for us. It's for the guys. And, I was just happy to do my part. At the same time, there are quite a few fellas that are in my mind at this time of year, especially. And, it's one of those things where we appreciate anyone thinking about it,
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to point out the veterans that did manage to come home, but were killed because of things that happened, whether they were, injured in service and those conditions eventually killed them, or things like Agent Orange and burn pits and those types of things that, have severely impacted veterans,
that are still impacting veterans to this day.
Yeah. And PTSD, that's, that is just it's the wound that we don't see, but the one that causes the most problems with when it has the biggest impact when it comes to things like veteran suicide. So,
indeed,
yeah. So, you work for an organization called Helping Heroes.
Yes,
and they do outreach to veterans who are homeless in the Northern Panhandle.
Yes. Right now, we're relatively new, getting a couple things started, but our founder, Jeremy Harrison, he started this organization, and he was originally a social worker, and he basically just started moving things forward with Helping Heroes to the point where we've gotten a whole variety of services right now. Our newest, and this is where I come in, I'm a relative noob at this here, okay? We just opened the emergency shelter here, and we've been going for about a month now.
Yeah, awesome.
And, it's been eye-opening to say the least, and it's been really interesting and a challenge, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, so talk to me about what do veterans face when they come home that leads to things like homelessness?
Well, that's the thing. There's a myriad of things that you can look at. For one, obviously, you come back, and while you're in the service, you're operating 100 miles an hour. I mean, working a 70-hour week is not uncommon. And then all of a sudden you get back to civilian life, and obviously things are not the same. There's a lot of disconnect that we go through where we're just sort of looking around going, my life is not what it was for however long we were in. And, a lot of guys do come home with not just the mental issues, but, they find ways to stave off the boredom. So substance abuse becomes a thing. Having issues making that connection with your loved ones back home. I can tell you from personal experience, getting off a plane and not having seen my children for over a year, they took one look at me and were like, who's this guy? And that can be very, very impactful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that lead up to vet homelessness. And, you know, it can be guys who have been overseas, but it can also be the guys who just served for maybe not even a year, didn't adapt to military service.
Hmm.
They are still vets. They raised their right hand, they swore to put on the uniform, but they didn't make it.
Yeah,
And it is not a life for everybody, but it is definitely a lifestyle.
absolutely. I kind of like it. I mean, I mean, you're retired from the military. You served 20 years. You get to take military retirement. Um, most people don't retire from their careers until they're, the mid 60s.
Oh,
And there's a transition for, even civilian workers. A lot of people who retire from a life of working don't survive the first year after getting out of a job they've worked for, 40, 50 years, because they're so used to that routine that everything in their life gets disrupted. Um, a lot of people call it like this golden year that, whether it's a, death in the family, or transition from a career that people just don't survive. They don't know how to handle that transition from, always working, getting up every day at 7 o'clock, or 5 o'clock, or whenever you get up and go to work. And that routine, once you lose that, a lot of people just don't know how to handle it.
I think the key is have a plan. It doesn't matter what that plan may be, but have a plan. Um, I knew getting out, I was still relatively young, and I said, "There's no way in heck I'm going to stay home." In
Mhm.
fact, I figured I hadn't taken a lot of leave. I'm going to take a few weeks off, see what it's like. I lasted about 3 weeks before, thank God, my better half looks at me and says, "You need to get a job, or you're going to die.
Yeah.
I will kill you. So
Yeah.
go out and get a job."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
so
Uh,
yeah, I mean, it helped, and I bounced around a couple different jobs first, and I found one that I was pretty good at. I enjoyed it, and I worked for the same company for 7 years, and I needed a new challenge. And when this opportunity with Helping Heroes came up, I had to jump at it. And the poor fools, they said yes. They hired me.
so a lot of people don't, they understand, they've heard of the GI Bill before, but
Mhm.
what services are available to veterans when they come out of the military?
Well, it depends on a lot of different things. Obviously, for retirees, there's a little bit more.
Mhm.
We have the option for the VA and VA healthcare. Um, you know, TRICARE for our families.
Mhm.
Um, and these are things that, you know, I've heard a lot of folks try to say, well, you're just getting entitlements. That's not entirely the case. No, I signed a contract. I entered a business agreement with the government
Mhm.
for these benefits that I have. I put in, I
Yeah.
fulfilled my side of the contract. But I'm sorry, I got a little off topic there.
No worries, no worries.
But again, there's also the GI Bill. There are a couple of places where you can look. For example, there are vet outreach centers that offer counseling. Um, Obviously, there's us, and you also have some privileges still with local bases. If you're close to a base, you can still use things like the commissary and
Mm.
PX.
Yep.
Um, you know, it's just little things here and there, but
Yeah. And they're
these
they're opening more benefits. I mean, they're extending commissary and PX privileges to even more veterans, not just retirees now. Uh,
yeah, and that's a good thing. I
they're
think
also, like, states will do things like, you can get your hunting and fishing licenses for free. Some places, if you're a retired veteran, you can they waive there's a homestead exemption on your property taxes. Um,
West Virginia. Here, take a list, take note. Uh,
There's also education benefits.
mhm.
Which is the GI Bill, but there's also home loan guarantee benefits. There's small business loans that they're really starting to do and get more, so that veterans coming out can go into business for themselves. The number of veteran-owned businesses has really exploded um, over the last few.
Past 4 years, I saw quite a bit. I'm hoping that some of that continues. I've seen a few things on the horizon that make me a little nervous, especially concerning the VA. But hopefully, you know, now that our foot's in the door, we can keep going with this.
Yeah. So, roughly how many of the veterans that you served with do you believe have PTSD?
All of them, all of
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
in one way, shape, or form. It's not something that I would say would be obvious or affects, but I will tell you, anybody who has gone overseas, who has done, a tour, will come back and at least have a few twitches coming back that they have to work their way through. And it is something you can work through. And, you know, it's not something that is, it's not, I want to dispel the notion that, a lot of vets have, this ticking time bomb going off waiting to, you know, it's not like that at all. It's more just, some hypervigilance comes out. You tend to look at the world a little differently, and that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it's just, I see a lot of people look at vets sometimes with this notion that, well, okay, you were in the Army, um, you know, or they ask a lot of questions that maybe are little inappropriate, things we don't want to talk about and we shut down on. So
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things that we as civilians need to be a little more sensitive towards. And it's not just the only people in the world that have PTSD are veterans. There are sexual assault survivors. There are people who had childhood abuse. The PTSD can be triggered by anything, like a car accident.
yeah,
Uh, you know,
I mean, look at some of these people who are, in these cities over the past year, Portland or what have you. I mean, I'm sure there are people walking around right now just in shock over losing a business or,
mhm, sure,
having, yeah, seen
yeah,
that kind of action in the streets,
yeah. I mean that things that you're let's say even some of the protesters that were in DC that got when Trump did his photo op in front of that church there across from the White House, across from Lafayette Square. Uh, that was you know you don't expect your own government to beat you just for a photo op. I mean that's kind of a scary thing. So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
all
We
this
also don't expect our government to try and rouse us to violence like Maxine Waters did here
yeah,
recently. So,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I think you and I are both libertarians for a very good reason. We look at the government with a little bit of a jaded eye.
Lots of suspicion. Yes.
Yeah.
So, what about in the shelters? Do you guys have in the shelter? Do you have mental health services for veterans who have PTSD?
We do not offer mental health services. However, we do refer. And obviously, I mean, if I see something at the emergency shelter level, all we do, we're providing them a bed and a place to sleep for the night.
Hmm.
Um, but if obviously I see a fella coming in with an obvious injury or if he's having some real issues, then yeah, I mean, I'll definitely hook him up with the ER or if he's eligible for VA services. Um, what we're trying to do is, provide these fellows with a reference point because one thing I can tell you, especially up here in the Northern Panhandle, finding the services is probably one of the most difficult things.
Where's your local VA hospital? Is that Clarksburg or is that
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're looking at an hour and a half drive half the time to get up there. And we have two clinics, and the closest is in Washington, PA, or St. Clairsville, Ohio.
So there's nothing even in Wheeling for a veteran to go to.
Not really, not
Wow.
health wise. So
We have one here in Martinsburg, the community-based CBOC, a community-based outpatient clinic.
mhm,
But yeah, that's surprising to me that there's nothing in a town the size of Wheeling for veterans.
I know. And kind of one of our hopes is we're in the process, like I said, of expanding, and we're trying to see if the building we've taken over a floor of part of the old hospital in downtown Wheeling, and we kind of hope that we can attract some of these other vet agencies to come in and, hey, let's take this whole building over and make us a one-stop shop.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Because I know that there are some collaboration between the VA and veteran agencies in other cities. So it makes sense to do it there, especially since there's no presence there at all, and the closest hospitals, an hour and a half away.
yeah. Now, over the past 4 years, I have seen an improvement in VA health service in that we were able to refer out. If we couldn't get a service from the VA, we could go to local doctors. I am seeing that start to slip away a little bit right now, which is concerning. And this is my own personal experience. You know, it's one of those issues where I'm hoping, like I said, we can be that one-stop shop so that we may not be able to provide that exact service, but we can get you where you need to go.
Yeah,
And
as efficiently as possible.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that the Veteran Choice Act doesn't go away. I grew up in New Mexico, and you're talking about veterans who would either have to go to Alamogordo or Albuquerque for their treatment, and that's if you're in Portales, that's a 2.5 hour ride. Uh,
Right.
if you drive like I do, it could be 3 hours. Most people, but that's if you're dealing with issues that affect your stamina. That 2.5 hour drive can be life threatening situation. So being able to utilize a medical facility closer to you for your routine appointments and get treatment that way, I just don't understand why that's such a controversy.
Well, even more to the point, you're talking about some guys who are, well, even facing issues like depression, to the point where if it's so hard to get the service, why bother? You
Yeah.
know, and again, they lose hope. So we're trying to build up hope. I keep telling the folks I work with, I raise hopes until they're old enough to fend for themselves. And that's what we're trying to do, essentially.
So, one of the more controversial things when it comes to treating veterans, especially with PTSD, is that a lot of advocates talk about the use of cannabis and psilocybin to treat,
Mm-hmm.
especially psilocybin. The studies that have been done recently have shown great promise in dealing with mental health issues, with PTSD and other mental health issues. What are
Mm-hmm.
your? I mean, you work in the facilities, and I know a lot of the veterans that do have addiction issues. Do you have a problem with using those types of substances to
Honestly,
treat?
honestly, they need to decriminalize it. But the biggest problem that I see right now is watching the jobs industry catch up with that. Right now, I see a lot of people who are not getting job opportunities because they want a background check, they want a drug test.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of places are legalizing cannabis, and well, an employer looks at it and says, well, sorry, you're on drugs. I can't hire you. Or you can't have access to services because you're on drugs. And that's bad. I mean, I think, you know, the studies need to go out. They need to sit down and start talking with some of these local business owners, Rotarians, what have you, and say, look, this is becoming a thing. You're going to have to accept that, if
Yeah.
people have access to it, they still need jobs, and you're looking for people right now. So let's come to a meeting of the mind, shall we?
Yeah, I think the disconnect there, they treat that any use of cannabis is somehow wrong, but they will go and do a happy hour with their coworkers after work because alcohol is just fine.
Oh
If
yeah.
you have that policy that don't do it on the job, then perhaps that's the happy medium that we should be coming to.
Well, the problem is alcohol doesn't stay in your system nearly as long as cannabis does.
Hmm.
You could have you know, you could smoke a joint on the weekend, and come Friday, it's still in your system.
Yeah,
They
but
do.
it's not
It's not.
altering your yeah.
Yeah, you're not intoxicated, but
Yeah.
and that's the problem people are facing. That they're looking at it going, well, how do I make sure my guy isn't coming into work stoned? Because let's face it, it still has that stigma in it.
Or
Cheech and Chong.
yeah. If you're stoned, you're going to be a dummy and have slow reaction and all that stuff. Yeah, it is a lot of stigma that we have to get through to. But I hope that with the current environment when it comes to hiring and bringing in good people, that we can start having that discussion of, hey, just because they smoke pot doesn't mean they're going to be, a layabout or whatever. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Psilocybin, I mean, that's it's a different thing, but I think that's more for an acute treatment of uh, more stringent health issues, more stringent mental health issues that need to be addressed.
Exactly. And I mean, that's one of those things that I'm not as familiar with, at least from the treatment aspect of it. I mean, I did spend 20 years as a law enforcement officer for the military. So
Yeah,
I'm used to dealing with it from that aspect.
sure.
And that's also probably one of the reasons I do believe in decriminalizing it, because I've seen what it can do, but I've seen, more importantly, the things that surround it are
Mhm.
what cause more of the problems than the actual use.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Um, so, in the shelter, roughly how many of your veterans do have a substance abuse issue?
um, I really don't think I should bring that
Sure,
up. That's
sure.
they're not my stories to tell. As far as who's doing what and who
Absolutely.
who has what.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I understand that completely. Now, but tell me about COVID. How is that? Has that increased the homeless population within? Because I know that, the statistics say, and of course we can manipulate statistics anyway, but the statistics say that roughly there are 40,000 homeless veterans every night in the United States. Has it increased over the life of COVID? Has it caused different issues?
well, again, I'm a newbie at this. I've only been with Helping Heroes for about 2 months now. But from what I've seen, it hasn't really affected them as much, because obviously they're not worried about the job issue. They're not worried about shelter. I know before we got into the building we're currently in, it was used as a free shelter over the winter. So I know, getting people into shelter and getting them under a roof is a little more important than worrying about, okay, you got a deep dry cough, let's take
Yeah,
your
yeah,
temperature. And so,
yeah, definitely. Um, okay, so what do you think it's so hard to get veterans access to their benefits, their VA benefits, not just the compensation and pension or whatever, but all we outlined them earlier. They have so many benefits that they have access to. Why do you think it's so hard to get them?
I can tell you right now, a lot of it is because they don't know they exist. It's one of those things where, if you don't know where to go looking for it, a lot of things have gone online, and you get an old fart like me, and
Sure.
I jump through, around on the internet enough to, I can access my Facebook and I can surf the net and with the best of them. But if I don't know what I'm looking for, then
Yeah.
it's a little hard. And like I said, it's one of those things where when you get out, you go through, a little program that shows you how to go be a civilian again. Well, that's true. That's great. But they don't give you everything. They
Mhm.
don't, you know, they don't tell you, things that, okay, here's a great example, the GI Bill. You talked about that. Um, if I had known 2 years prior to my retirement that I could have passed it on to my kids would have used it and gone to college. I didn't know anything about it. In fact, it had changed while I was in. I didn't know that.
Yep.
So I found out, hey, I was still eligible for it, but I found out about it after the fact.
Mhm.
It's a service I could have passed on to my kids, but instead, well, I didn't get to do that, but I did actually take advantage of it. I got to use it, go after my BA. So
Well, there you go. What'd you get a BA in?
I actually went to West Liberty and got
Okay.
their Regency bachelor's degree. Kind of focused on leadership a bit.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it's a great program. A little off topic, West Liberty State or West Liberty University now. It used to be West Liberty State College. Um, they offer a program for old farts like me who, if you've got life experience, if you've got a little bit of college, you can take all that, combine it together, and they do a really good program, and a lot of it's online. So
That's great because, when I was getting my at my second university, getting my bachelor's, finishing that up, um, I actually was in a class. It was a basic algebra class because I'm just dumb when it comes to math. And a guy that was sitting next to me in class, we struck up a conversation. He was a 20-year Navy vet, and he worked on nuclear submarines. He was a nuclear engineer in the Navy, and the university did not give him credit for basically being an engineer in the Navy. So he had to take all these basic level classes that he's just he could do in his sleep because he's an engineer. He can do all this math backwards and forwards. Um, and I'm glad to see universities doing that because a lot of veterans have experiences in industries that do they really need to take basic English or yeah, I mean, yes, you're writing substantial papers or something along those lines, but um, giving them credit for their service, I think helps not only helps us get the veterans educated, but it also helps get the veteran lessen the cost of the GI Bill.
indeed. Now there is a caveat with the vets. If they choose to pursue an education, they should look into the arts transcript. Arts, another acronym, I can't probably remember all what it stands for, but essentially what an arts program does is it turns your military education into a college classes translation essentially.
Yeah.
A lot of my courses that I took basically turned into electives, but they could have applied towards criminal justice or again, my, leadership classes.
Yeah.
But again, any vet that hasn't looked into that should, and they can go through online through e-benefits and do that.
Yeah. And that is a great resource if you're if you're a veteran and you're looking at accessing your benefits. You can go to e-benefits, although they're transitioning off of e-benefits. They're moving to something called vets.gov. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to file a claim for compensation benefits, so say you were in the service and you were injured, whether it's combat or non-combat, if you were in the service and you were injured, file a claim for compensation benefits. That will help also get you into the door for getting treatment for those benefits from VA hospitals, and then also helps qualify you for things like voc rehab benefits. So if you want to transition into a new career, that's another thing that the VA does have is voc rehab benefits.
Yeah, the voc rehab program is great. I looked in when I was considering going back to school. I also looked into voc rehab, and I chose going to school. But you know, again, it would have been an outstanding program to get into for anybody, especially a younger fellow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, voc rehab. I mean, you have your GI Bill that you can get college, go to college with. Voc rehab, what it can do is if you are, let's say you want to go into a trade, um, it can get you into a trade school, teach you that trade. It will pay for things like tools if you need to use a tool. If you need a computer, it'll give you a computer. So there's a lot of things that if you are not completely totally disabled by your service, that voc rehab program can get you set up for to do moving forward as you transition out of the military.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this is one of those programs that I wish I'd known about a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's one of the things because I've worked with people who've done the transition assistance program, the TAP program,
Yeah,
and trying to I think it's because it is one of those one size fits all that they have to, whether they're dealing with 20-year veterans or guys who are just,
doing
did
their 4 year and going.
yeah, and getting out. Um, yeah, there are many different programs that you can tailor towards who you're talking to, and I just think that they're doing like a one size fits all, where it just a lot of it goes over people's heads, or they just not paying attention because it's somebody's droning on and showing a PowerPoint however many hours.
Death by PowerPoint. Oh yeah, Army's famous.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop when you get into the government side. So, all right. So, tell me about some of the other services that Helping Heroes do.
Well, we have a couple different things that we work on. Right now, like I said, our emergency shelter is our newest program, but we also do a variety of other services. Um, we have case management, and what this is you have a social worker sit down with you and discuss your options, also pointing you at the agencies that would help you most. We can provide rent and utility assistance. So say for example, you're looking at a place and they're asking for last month's rent, getting your deposits for your utilities. We can assist with that. We also provide transitional living, and what that is say a fellow has been homeless, but we're getting him ready to move to the next step. What we can do is set him up with an apartment to get him used to living in a regular house. We can provide the basic necessities, a little bit of food, get him started, so that he's able to say, okay, this is my place, this is my, I can make a stand here and start making those moves, getting employment, start having a place to come home at night, and not have to worry about, one night after other, in a shelter or things like that.
Yeah.
We can provide assistance with obtaining VA benefits. We're looking right now to start up an employment counseling where essentially a fella can go in, we can help them with building a resume, getting them online, showing them how to work through, things like Indeed or, all these job programs that are out there right now. Because let's face it, a lot of the jobs out there are online right now. I know when I first started looking, you walked in, you filled out a paper and handed it to the guy and off you went. But
or you needed a couple quarters to buy the Sunday newspaper and look at the job, help wanted section of the paper, and that's just not there anymore. I mean, it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We also do some referrals. We can provide referrals to fellows coming in. If they are looking for employment, or they need somebody, to say, hey, I know this guy. Or again, referring folks to new, new services that they may not have been aware of in the past. We also have a pretty good program with helping with food and clothing, setting people up with the basics if they need it. So, we provide opportunities.
Excellent. Excellent. And this is the website down here at the bottom, www.helpingheroesinc.org.
Mm-hmm.
You can go there. You can donate money to them, and that this money is going to help veterans in need in their darkest hour, because just the emergency shelter alone is a lifeline to veterans who are kind of in that darkest moment of their life, that you don't have a home, you don't have security in your life, and you're dealing with other issues, possibly. So this is a great organization.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you, like I said, I don't like to tell anyone else's story,
Mm-hmm.
but I will say that I have seen fellas come in, as you said, in their darkest hour, and they might have been pretty darn close to the end of their rope. And this, we tied a knot in that rope and we gave them a pull up a little bit. We're getting them back in the game a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, like I said, we are a new organization, and if folks are interested in what we do, or if they know somebody who is in crisis, then by all means, our email address, our email or contact information is right there on the website. By all means, get a hold of us. And the biggest thing is, a lot of times I will say with vets, you tend to see guys who they want to walk around like everything's fine. Everything, I can handle anything.
Yep.
And they don't, they don't really want to have help, because they kind of look at it as, well, I can get through this. What do you think? I'm a wimp? No. I say go if you notice that, there's a problem. It's okay to get help. If you have somebody in your life who is struggling with, financially, or with some sort of addiction issue, or, depression, talk to them, get them to open up, get them to, reach out and get them the help they need, because that right there, that closing yourself off, is what leads a lot of guys to my front door.
Yeah.
And, that's something that, everyone says act globally, or no, think globally, act locally. I say close it even further,
Yeah.
look to your circle around you, do what you can.
Yeah. And, I can't echo that enough. If you see somebody who you think is in crisis, reach out to them, talk to them, let them know that this is a safe, no judgment harbor for them to express any feelings or anything, or open up. And if they're not willing to open up to you, at least, say, can I get you some help? Can I look at, perhaps referring you to, whatever services that you need, especially in the veteran community. There are plenty of services out there. We shouldn't be losing, especially with veteran suicide. We shouldn't be losing 22 a day. There are plenty of services out there. It's just, if you're in crisis, ask for help. There's plenty of help out there, and we'll whether it's me or Rob here or anyone else, we'll be happy to help you, because we don't want to see you become another statistic. Another part of the Memorial Day that we have to live with is, those veteran suicides, and because that is a direct result of the things that they did in their service, and to me, that those people need to be honored, but it's also a severe tragedy that we lost them when we do have all these services.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, Rob Rahr, thank you so much for joining us tonight. The organization is Helping Heroes. It is located in Wheeling, West Virginia. They have an emergency shelter. If you have any loved ones in the northern panhandle that need emergency services or that are veterans, please feel free to reach out to this organization. If you need to help in finding any other organizations, please feel free to reach out to me. And I can try and get you guys hooked up with anything anywhere in the United States. I do have contacts all over the country to try and get mental health resources for our veterans. So,
You.
again, yes. What was that?
I'm sorry. I said thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Again, happy Memorial Day. I hate to say happy Memorial Day, but
I know, right? It's kind of
it's kind of a it's a bittersweet thing. But again, think about the people that we've lost in service to the country this Memorial Day weekend. It's not just a weekend to have another extra day off and cook burgers and have fun at the barbecue, which is I don't begrudge anyone for doing that, but give a thought to our veterans and those that did not make it back. So,
if I may,
sure.
While you're out there having the burgers and all that, if you know somebody who's lost somebody, invite them over.
Yes.
Make them a burger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Offer them a beverage.
Yep.
Let them know that they're not alone. That's the big thing.
That's right. Yeah, because this is one of those days that really do trigger a lot of veterans at home that may make that awful decision to take their own lives. Is these days that we honor, and they are kind of forced to think about those people that they left behind and wherever they served. So reach out to them and let them know that they're welcome and give them some love. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining us this evening on the Political Deep Dive. This podcast will be up on SoundCloud in the morning. I'll send out a notice that it's up there as well. Rob, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to everyone next week on LPTV. And again, thanks to the People for Liberty folks for providing us a home for the last 2+ months after I got my ban for sharing Jeffrey Dahmer memes. They came in at a great time, but and go support the People for Liberty. They do fantastic work. Hooking up people and getting helping content creators, helping people who are new to the liberty movement identify places to go and identity communities to hook up with. I'm in quite a few of their identity communities, and they're creating new ones every day just to give that libertarian voice to whatever identity that you associate with. So again, thank you so much. Yes.
And also, we have some local elections coming up here. If we have any libertarians wanting to run.
Yes, please run.
Let us know. We'll vote for you.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I know that we got city council elections in West Virginia coming up.
Indeed.
This week, I believe. Maybe it's Tuesday.
Pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's not everywhere in West Virginia. I know Will Hyman, our state chair, is running for city council in Clarksburg. There are a couple other libertarians running kind of in that Clarksburg, Harrison County area. So, good luck to them. But 2022 is coming up, a whole new landscape in West Virginia. If you're interested in running, reach out to me, reach out to Will Hyman, and get on the ballot.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. And we will talk to you again next week on LPTV.
Thanks again.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Political Deep Dive. We air every Sunday night at 8 p.m. You can follow us on Facebook.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word, on Twitter.com/Political Deep, on YouTube.com/Papaduke, PAPADUKE, and on Twitch.tv/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. On Monday, the audio of the previous night's episode is found on SoundCloud.com/ The Political Deep Dive, all one word. And you can join in on the fun on Instagram.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. Thanks to People for Liberty for their continued support at people4liberty.org and on Facebook.com/People4Liberty Inc. Give us a like and a share on whatever platform you are viewing us from. It helps us out, and we certainly appreciate the support. We look forward to seeing you Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.